Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to It's Time to Read with Miss Jones. Our story for today, The Little Flower Seed, and this is Clifford's Puppy Days by Sarah Fish, illustrated by Bob Roper. Spring is in the air, Clifford, Emily Elizabeth said. Can you feel it? Clifford wagged his tail. It was true. Early spring is the best time to plant a new garden, said Mrs. Howard. The courtyard will look pretty when our garden starts to bloom, Emily Elizabeth said. We'll have lots of vegetables and flowers in the garden, Clifford, Emily Elizabeth said, even some carrots for Daffodil. Clifford looked and smelled, but he didn't see any carrots or flowers. Emily Elizabeth and her mother worked and worked. They dug holes in the dirt. What fun, Clifford thought. Then Emily Elizabeth dropped something tiny into each hole. Mrs. Howard covered each hole with dirt. What's going on? Clifford wondered. All the seeds are planted, Emily Elizabeth shouted. Good work, said Mrs. Howard. Let's go fill the watering can and water our new garden. Now it's my turn to dig, Clifford thought. He dug and dug. I'm helping too, he thought. No, no, Clifford, Emily Elizabeth shouted. Stop digging up the seeds. Clifford was so confused. He didn't know what he did wrong. Seeds have to stay in the ground to become trees and flowers, explained Emily Elizabeth. This sounded strange to the tiny red puppy. It rained the next day. Rain is good for gardens, Daffodil told Clifford. Why? Clifford asked. Seeds need water to help them grow, Daffodil said. In a few days, Clifford saw something wonderful. The little flower seed had grown into a tiny plant. Soon, all the seeds grew into tiny green plants. Clifford thought they were beautiful. Emily Elizabeth watered the garden every day. And every day, the weather got warmer and warmer. The plants grew and grew. The sunflower was Clifford's favorite. When summer came, the puppy loved to stay cool in its shade. Isn't it wonderful? Mr. Sudarsky said. And the seeds are delicious. You are a good gardener, Clifford, Daffodil said. This is the best carrot I've ever eaten. Emily Elizabeth, you should be very proud, said Mr. Howard. You grew a whole garden from little seeds. Clifford barked happily. The sunflower was growing, and so was he. Who knew how big they both get? Now, do you remember? Let's think about the story I just read. Let's see. Number one, what did Emily Elizabeth tell Clifford to stop doing? Did she tell him to stop barking at a cat? chewing her shoe, or digging in the garden. What did Emily Elizabeth tell Clifford to stop doing? That's right, boys and girls, digging in the garden. Number 2, which is Daffodil's favorite? Carrots, sunflowers, or peas? You're right, carrots. Daffodil is a bunny rabbit, and bunnies love carrots. Now I'm going to read you 3 sentences, and you're going to tell me what happened first, what happened second, and what happened third. Okay? Or first, what was next, and then what happened last. So, it rained on the new garden. Emily Elizabeth and Mrs. Howard planted seeds. And the sunflower grew taller than Clifford. Let's think about those 3 sentences. It rained on the new garden. Emily Elizabeth and Mrs. Howard planted seeds. And the sunflower grew taller than Clifford. So the first thing that happened was what? That's right. Emily Elizabeth and Mrs. Howard planted seeds. What happened next? You got it. It rained on the new garden. And then what happened last? Yep, that's it. The sunflower grew taller than Clifford. The end. Boys and girls, it's real important when your parents read a story or when I read a story to you to really listen so that way you can answer the questions. And parents, make sure you ask your children questions about the story. Asking them questions is very important. It helps their listening skills. It helps with comprehension. It helps with sequencing. What happened first? What happened second? And it also definitely helps with vocabulary. They will tell you things that you probably never heard of, and then it increases their vocabulary. So it's real important that you ask questions. Also, the boys and girls should know about a story. It has the beginning, it has a middle, and it has an ending. They also should know and learn about settings. Where did it take place? Did it take place in a garden? Did it take place at a pool? Did it take place at Chuck E. Cheese? Okay, the setting of a story. And then most importantly, what's in the story, who the characters of the story, who the story is about. Okay, so it's really important not only to read them stories, but to ask them questions and have them tell you the story back, in their own words if they're not reading yet. Okay, all right, so the little flower seed. Thank you for tuning in to It's Time to Read with Miss Jones. Please tune in tomorrow for another story. Peace and blessings.